Jason Chandler Williams, aka White Chocolate, born November 18, 1975. Welcome to the Beautiful Game series on Stunted Growth, where we talk about guys whose basketball game was just an amazing sight to see and deserve to be appreciated and documented. Not every player has a growth stunt or spurt story, but one that still should be told. Today, that guy is Jason Williams. With so many people all over the world playing the game of basketball, it can be difficult to stand out amongst your peers. But today's feature, I can factually say there was no player like White Chocolate Jason Williams. Sure, he wasn't more talented and decorated than Larry Bird, had a deadly fadeaway like Dirk Nowitzki, or a big-time scorer like Pistol Pete, but no offense, as far as white players, there wasn't a more beautiful game than Jason Williams. A real one-of-one where there hasn't been one before, and probably won't be another, that came in the perfect time, had more jaw-dropping skill, had moves like him, and made the game look so good. Sure, there were other factors in his life that affected his on-court game and may have placed a low ceiling on his potential. And sure, he's never been an all-star, but he left his mark on the game for the flair he played with, making basketball as exciting as it could be as one of the more standout point guards regardless of race of the late 90s, early 2000s, a time that was a golden era of basketball at the guard position. What I liked most about Williams was he always played the game with a youthful energy where he wasn't afraid to try things in fear he'd be taken out the game, and he's played this way since far back as anyone can remember. He was also unpredictable, as you never knew what he was going to do next with the ball. He brought excitement to the Sacramento Kings for what seemed like the first time in their history, even made Chris Webber commit to the idea of being in Sacramento after just one practice with Williams. With his talent and the effect he had on fans, it still amazes me his stats never amounted to his legend. He could shoot when he wanted to, play defensive angles leading to timely steals, was quick and unstoppable in the open floor, and magical with his imagination when it came to his passing. To this day, there's never been a more beautiful in-game pass than the one he pulled off in the 2000s Rising Stars game to Raef LaFrentz, even though it wasn't finished but led to a shooting foul. That was Jason Williams' game and career in a nutshell. Beautiful to watch, but led to a roller coaster of emotions. He was a champion with the Miami Heat in 2006, starting at point guard, and as D-Wade later said, was important to settling that team, something he'd later learned to do as a professional. He wasn't the best. Arguably an argument can be made for his stunted growth story, but you can't deny his game was beautiful to watch for these reasons. Let's talk about it. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. Let's get it. From playground to the pros. One thing I think that made Williams fun to watch, that I think everyone can agree on about his game, was one of his obvious influences being playground basketball. Williams was a 6'1" point guard from Bell, West Virginia, and coming up, he wasn't even the most popular player in his state or on his team. That was Randy Moss, a standout three-sport athlete that went on to become a Hall of Fame wide receiver. The two competed against each other in all sports growing up, and one thing they did share was their love for the spotlight being on them, feeding into it to create magical moments. Williams and Moss led their high school team to the state championship in 1994, losing in the final game, but Williams was still named a Player of the Year in the state by USA Today. He committed to Providence before the coach left, forcing him to decommit. He'd signed with Marshall and young Billy Donovan, redshirting his first year, then playing just one season with the team before Donovan accepted a job at the University of Florida. Williams jumped at the chance to follow his coach to the beaches, and that was a great decision for his career. After sitting out another year due to the transfer rules back then, Williams joined the team as a sophomore and had a breakout year for the Gators, leading them in scoring, assists, steals, and three-point percentage his first year, even though the team finished with a 14-15 record. It could have been for a lack of talent, the team adjusting to a new coach and system, or Williams's many infractions that led to 3 different suspensions for smoking weed that got him kicked off the team for good February 1998, his final games with the Gators as he then declared for the NBA draft. Williams wowed on every level he played on, as the things he was doing you just didn't see a guy in organized basketball even attempting. He really brought playground basketball moves to the NCAA and the NBA, and thing is, he was converting on these moves. They weren't just a show that went wrong. It's what made him such a unique player and made him beloved amongst the fans in a time playground basketball was at its peak, growing parallel to white chocolate, taking the league by storm. After he left Florida, he became the 7th overall pick in the draft, before Hall of Famers like Dirk Nowitzki and Paul Pierce. His growth as a player would continue to stunt because of him violating the NBA drug policy and program, but when he did take the court, you can expect moves that on that stage you only got from the playground, making him must-see TV every time. A passing genius. Arguably, the most beautiful thing about Jason Williams' game was his passing ability. It's still crazy to me to see him when he was in his prime and understand his career, to look at the stats and not see the effect of those genius passes he dished out. Next to Pistol Pete, no player has ever had that same creativity in the NBA as far as a passer. Back to the elbow pass, the genius in that to come up with that on the fly and to completely fool the defense signed off that as a passer, Jason Williams was one of the most beautiful ever. His no-looks were insane. He'd do things like hop and hesitate for a second in the lane, allowing his teammate to finally get to the spot he wanted to put the ball, then use his facial expressions to confuse even the cameraman at times before dumping off another one-of-a-kind dime. Yes, he was a walking turnover during his playing days, going all the way back to his days at Florida, almost leading the nation in turnovers. Certainly would have made the top 10 in that category had he played enough games and was eligible for awards. Up until his first year in Memphis, he was usually one of the leaders in turnovers per game, as he had yet to figure out the balance between flash and function, and his teammates too weren't always able to move at the pace of his passing genius. Early on, it didn't lead to winning and a lot of turnovers, but every game you were guaranteed to see a pass from him you remembered forever, and that made him a passing legend and beautiful to watch. All around unexpected. One thing about basketball that's an underrated reason some players have success is the defense doesn't expect them to do something, then it happens and leaves them frozen in position. Maybe the funniest example of this is the between-the-leg hesitation crossover Williams performed on Gary Payton, considered one of, if not the best defensive point guard of all time, that left Gary with only one option to try and trip Williams as he hopped on by for a wide-open semi-split floating layup. Let's be honest for a second, you don't see white players with sauce like Williams had very often, and that could be the thing that gets you when defending a guy like that. Payton didn't think this young, white rookie had those kind of handles, certainly didn't think he moved that quick from one move to the other in complete opposite directions, and it ended up being he on the wrong end of one of Williams's legendary highlights. His passing game was also unexpected, and like mentioned, maybe even to some of his own teammates who fumbled many of his passes, or they didn't even see them while they headed right out of bounds. That was the risk Williams played with in order to keep defenders on their toes on the floor, and in the end, it cost him to be traded multiple times in his career. That and his off-court and sometimes on-court behavior leading to him being seen as not valuable enough to be worth the headache. With the Miami Heat, he toned down a lot of his flashy passing and flair for the big play, and it helped lead the team to an NBA championship in 2006. No matter what, they can't say his game didn't lead to a ring, one of the toughest one in Heat history. All in all, Jason Williams and his final numbers don't match to tell the story of how much fun this guy was to watch. Constantly on top plays lists and created buzz for a few franchises that were worthless to watch before him. He wasn't the best, okay cool, but his game was certainly beautiful. Salute, much respect, it's your boy JC Stunted Growth, and I'm out.
The high one off the window, up and in. What a move by Jason Williams.